Well, joining me now live in our Lagos studio to discuss this and much more, I have Princess Adeyinka, the founder of Happy Coffee, Nigeria. Good to have you on the breakfast show this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Let's now discuss between the prospects for growth, the opportunities at hand versus the challenges that make coffee production and processing and exporting quite a difficulty.
First, we interest you to know that 15 states in Nigeria, like you rightly mentioned, do grow coffee. Unfortunately, almost 100%, maybe 95% of what we drink as a country is imported into our country by countries that don't even grow coffee. So that already shows you that there's a lot of lump-sidedness and there's a huge gap in off-taking. So what happens is every year there's wastage in the coffee farms in Nigeria. So it creates a huge problem, but most importantly, it creates a lot of opportunity, because if you look at countries like Brazil, where their GDP is majorly on coffee, it lets you know that there are many opportunities. And I like to say coffee is the black gold, and it lends itself to many things. So just from the farm to the cup, coffee is used for so many things other than drinking. And like you rightly said, coffee is the second most traded commodity in the world and the most valuable cash crop. So it's very important for us as a nation to begin to look at frameworks on how to create a sustainable coffee industry and sector for ourselves and for the world at large.
And one of the biggest issues at hand is the quality of the beans at the end of the day. Now, talk to us from your experience, your interface with farmers, how you source, and also the role of value addition. Really, we have to look at that critically. Using your platform as a case study, for example, sourcing to value addition, how do we address this conversation?
It's very, very, very important. I remember when I started this business in 2015, I didn't even realize the state of the industry at that time. I just thought as a young entrepreneur, I just got selected for fund seed capital. And I thought, I was going to build a coffee brand. But when I got into the business, I realized that the coffee industry in Nigerian sector had no framework. Literally no framework, meaning that we couldn't even connect with the farmers immediately. A coffee brand like myself didn't have the wherewith, to spring up and, do the big things we wanted to do. So, and I like to also say that I look at my business now through the eyes of the value chain. How can our brand, Happy Coffee, begin to create models that can create a sustainable model for ourselves? But most importantly, over the years, our coffee quality has dwindled. And you know why? Agriculture was put on the back burner for a while. And coffee hasn't been a mandate crop, even for Nigeria as a whole. But it would interest you to know that on the IOC, which is the governing body for coffee, Nigeria is listed as an exporting nation. And that was in 1963. That shows you that at a point in our history, we were exporting high levels of coffee. However, over the years, that dwindled. And obviously that affects quality. I'm one of those people that believe in whatever you put your attention to will give you great quality. However, that can be improved on. And that is what I've always called for. There has to be a plan on the table to create one. There is no national policy for coffee in Nigeria, as big as our nation is. However, there is a policy in the second reading as we speak. But however, there has to be a framework for coffee. There has to be a national policy that protects farmers. So you can't be importing coffee into Nigeria, 95%, and then coffee is wasting in the country. So we have to create those policies that ensure that we protect local consumption and production of Nigerian coffee. And then obviously we can talk to countries like Kenya. I remember when Rwanda was getting back on the coffee map, Kenya did a lot of work helping them with the expertise. We can also do that. We have nations like Ghana who's picked up production and quality. We can also, aggregate partnership across that line and begin to see how we can improve the quality of Nigerian.
I like the fact that you also made mention of Kenya and Ghana. Ghana is a net exporter of cocoa and now taking on coffee a little more aggressively now. How then do we change the conversation or government tilting the body language to see this as the next focus? Yes, we say agriculture ought to be the mainstay, but now as net exporter amid dwindling foreign reserves, exporting coffee is one of the cash cows we have to milk.
Absolutely. I remember in 2019, we started the first ever Lagos Coffee Festival, and that was in direct talks to how can we as a value chain, as a sector, begin to have those conversations. But I always say the government has its role, the private sector has their role. We as entrepreneurs, I'm probably one of the few, we're not even up to 10 entrepreneurs across Nigeria.
That deal in coffee.
Yes, and especially what we're doing as a brand. I'm probably the only female entrepreneur doing this. I envision more people coming into the value chain. But however, the government has a role in policy making. There has to be tariff on coffee importation into Nigeria. It is what it is, because if we don't do that, we're going to continue creating this gap between the farmers and the consumers. Then the private sector has a role to play. The banks, I remember being an entrepreneur. I was talking to someone yesterday who wanted to start a coffee shop, because I've helped a lot of people kind of start up their coffee businesses. And he was like, how do I get funding? I said, you know, the truth is there's really no funding for young businesses in the coffee sector. We're not that popular yet. We're not a mandate. But for me, it hasn't stopped me for 6 years. Literally, I've just taken advantage of a lot of programs for women, grants. But however, the private sector has to play an important role, either in funding or helping to aggregate farmers, like Afex can aggregate farmers, then roles of entrepreneurs like myself. And then the public we have to create a lot of awareness to the public.
But the ruling sentiment right now with investors is that they all sit on the fence, looking at the issue of security. And yes, Nigeria has a big market for consumption and also participation, be it any form of commodity, product or service. But investors are really sitting on the fence. That's the reality on ground. The COVID-19 hit hard, and then now we are having security also take a bigger chunk of that confidence in the market. How do you think now, in picturing a convincing approach to investors, do you think we'll still see a stronger investment drive on the part of investors, say by the end of this year, come next year? What's your forecast really for the industry? Since government cannot necessarily support or fund as much, private sector engagement has to pull the weight.
One of the other ways that in other countries where entrepreneurs are able to crowdfund, although we have a lot of issues in terms of the policies around crowdfunding in Nigeria, but there has to be sit down at the table. How do entrepreneurs get funding for their businesses? I think that local investors can do much. I always say that Dangote didn't make his billions selling cement to America. He made his billions selling cement to Africa, to Nigerians. It was the same naira that he sold to us, and he was able to amount to that. So for me, there is the role of the consumer, there is the role of local investors. It doesn't have to be 100 million naira. It can be 1 million naira, but there has to be policy around where entrepreneurs can have access to crowdfunding. I've seen crowdfunding do a lot for businesses. So those are the ways that we can also assist in building businesses like ours for the future.
Now, in selecting taste, now I'd like us to have quite an interesting conversation here now. Getting the right taste for your coffee beans and then having that brew early in the morning. What's the technique with it?
One of the things we've taught and we've been doing for 5 years is teaching Nigerians the right way to drink coffee. Now, Nigeria is listed as an instant coffee nation. That means most of the coffee we drink is processed coffee.
Most of us don't even know the real smell of the beans.
So when we started this business, we still source our coffee locally from Taraba. As a matter of fact, we have a team out there yesterday talking to our female farmers and seeing what more we can do for an agro scheme. But however, we take our coffee from Taraba. We have a local roaster here in Lagos who has created an amazing blend. And then, you whip the coffee, you grind, and then you brew your coffee freshly in the morning. And that's what we've been doing, educating you. I always say that the coffee we serve is like juice out of a box or juice, like freshly squeezed. So we do freshly brewed coffee, and we want to encourage more Nigerians to drink freshly brewed coffee. It's literally the best way to drink coffee. And
then lastly now, for anyone who wants to go into the business, how critical is the role of packaging?
Very critical. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we have...
I ask this because we are quite an instant on the move people. So our economy is turned to sort of the sachet economy where we just want to quickly open and then have a drink at a go.
Innovation is very key to any business, young business. We've created a model or a product that does that. So now we have fresh coffee in tea bag forms. So you can just tip it in a cup just like tea, and it's still fresh coffee. So like I said, for us, we create very simple. I like to say that Happy Coffee is a coffee solution company. So what we want to do is we're creating coffee solutions around coffee for Nigeria, for Africa, and for the world.
Thank you very much for your time on the breakfast show this morning. Princess Adinka, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And hopefully we'll have the coffee business thrive as much as we see the forecast. And we'd also like to see Nigeria also become a stronger net exporter of coffee. Much more job creation within this regard as well. The opportunities are just vast.
Limitless.
Thank you very much for your time once again.
Thank you.